there's a big difference between, self-absorption and self-care. So self-care is like a non-negotiable. Like for me, it is absolutely a necessity. And I think we all need that.
Welcome back to another episode of Voices of the Goddess, where brilliant women come to take a break from their successful and sometimes overwhelming lives to level up, live free, and create abundance.
If your hectic life has you feeling a bit lost, if you're building your career, brand, or business, or if you simply want to get the most out of life, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Julietta Wenzel, founder of Body and Soul PT and Soul Candy.
And I'm your co-host, Graciela, professional portrait photographer specializing in boudoir and personal branding.
Whether you're relaxing with a cup of coffee or running around town, we've got you.
Whatever you're doing, thanks for bringing us along and sharing a laugh.
Here comes the magic.
Hello, everybody, and hello, Graciela.
Hello, Julietta. Hello, my beautiful listeners. How's everybody doing? I can hear them. Listen.
You can hear them? I know. The Floridian ones are saying, enough with the rain already.
It has been unusually rainy, but you know what? I am thrilled not to be anywhere where there is snow. My sister's in Chicago. She says, today it snowed and it was just like 80 yesterday. I don't know how you all grew up like that. It sounds impossible to me.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I don't know.
I still have to get you up to, we have to go up to the family cabin up in northern Wisconsin, and it didn't happen last year, but I think it's got to happen soon.
I'm going to request to go up when it's like the perfect temperature. Yes, I want to. Yes, I want to see your brother's goats. I'm all about it. I'm super excited about that part. And I'm not doing the shoveling the snow thing. So
No. We'll go when it's hot as hell here so we can go up and
there you go.
It gets warm in the summer. Sometimes it's hot as hell up there too, but it only lasts for a very short time. It doesn't last for 9 months like it does here.
I know, so brutal.
What's the latest on TikTok?
Okay, time for our TikTok topic. God, I love TikTok. Every time I think, oh no, I don't need it anymore, I'm like, look, I learned something new. So last night I'm scrolling through, and actually this made the news, believe it or not. They, right? The artificial intelligence people. I don't know if you saw this. They programmed a robot to do a repetitive task, right? And I'm just going to read you the caption. It says the AI experienced 15 minutes of wage slavery, then immediately killed itself after determining it as the logical choice. So literally there's a video and you can go and find it. And the robot, the job was to take a box and get it off of an assembly line and put it somewhere else and, kind of just keep doing the same thing. And after just, 15 minutes, it literally just crumples to the ground. And I'm like, if this is not the most incredible lesson, right? We are not made for these repetitive tasks. Not even the machines who were literally built for it are not built for it. They've tried to infuse machines with our human nature to see if they can get them to think, right? And repair themselves and talk to each other and all of these things. And the machine came to the same conclusion that we come to, that this BS repetitive life without adventure is no life at all.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Right? I love TikTok.
I'm going to add on because I love how you say you learn from TikTok. And so the other day I learned on Facebook or Instagram or something, to clean my air fryer. If I just put a little water and vinegar and run it for a little bit, it'll clean itself. And so the other day I do this, and my boyfriend comes into the kitchen and finds what I had done, and he's
cooking water.
He's like, "This is genius. How come I didn't figure this out?" I said, "Because he hates social media." I'm like, "Yes," I said, "it's because you refuse to use social media as a source of marketing."
I mean, honestly, like, listen, I know social media has a lot of negative stuff to it. I get it. And if you allow yourself to be pulled down, you will absolutely go down the rabbit hole. And also, since we can't live in community the way that, nature intended, right? Jobs and kids and houses, and literally like your house is fortified, and you've got now they have those hurricane proof windows where you can't even hear your neighbors. Like, if we can't talk to each other in real life, we at least should talk to each other online and learn. Otherwise, I mean, that's what societies did, right? It's how nature is. It's how animals are. The babies learn from the parents, and the parents learn from their friends, and et cetera. And right, if we don't create that somewhere, how does this knowledge get passed down?
So, interesting fact about hurricane doors and windows, which I had installed in my house last year. And I live in a neighborhood. There are roosters cock-a-doodle-doing at all hours of the day and night, and peacocks that are squealing or whatever that noise is that they make all the time. And in my house, I don't hear them. But after the flood last week, all the frogs came out of everywhere.
Oh, wow.
I can't hear a rooster cock-a-doodle-doo or a peacock squawk, but those frogs, it penetrates the hurricane doors and windows like nobody's business. I was
really?
Like, what is that? They are so loud.
Wow.
And they were gone, but I suspect with all this lovely rain, there's probably going to be a lake in my backyard again, and more of those crazy frogs.
Wow, that's really interesting. I wonder, it's got to be some vibrational something or another, right? Some megahertz something. I don't know. I don't know. I got a D in physics. But that's really interesting that you would not hear, because like roosters and peacocks are no joke. I mean, they're loud. But to hear frogs, I don't know.
Anyway, let's bring our guest on.
Let's.
I'm super excited because I graduated with this woman back in 1986 from Sheboygan North High School.
Wow.
Go Raiders.
Hey, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And thanks for having me on. Good to meet you, wonderful goddesses.
How exciting. 2 Wisconsinites on one show. This is going to be...
What could be better? What could be better?
Yeah, right?
So, Chris,
we won't have any conversations about cheese. Okay.
Actually, I prefer the cheese conversation over the snow conversation, so feel free.
Yes, we did have snow this morning for the listeners. It's been a crazy, crazy year.
But did you have cheese?
You know what? No, I did not have cheese. I had a little bit last night. We have really good. It's got coffee on the outside, and coffee crumbles on the outside.
Wow.
And the inside, I can't remember. Filavitano is the name. I highly recommend it.
This is Gucci cheese.
Yes, it's really good. I had it before bed, and I think I had a hard time sleeping because there was caffeine in the coffee. Hello. The things you wouldn't know if you're not from Wisconsin.
Right? Oh, wow. So, Chris, will you please, I know you, but will you please introduce yourself to our audience? Tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what keeps you passionate about doing what you do.
Yeah. So I wear many hats. I am an author. Actually, I have a book coming out May 10th called Broken, Brave, and Bittersweet, Forging Fiercely Through Parenthood, Disability, and Other Misadventures. And it's in regard to sort of my life story. It's a memoir, which I'll get into a little bit later. That's kind of my biggest passion project that I'm glad to be sort of wrapping up because it was a 5-year ordeal to get this written. I'm also a mom of 2 children, one of which has special needs. And I'm a hospital chaplain. That's kind of my later career goal or career change because of the accident that I had. I was a social worker before, and I had to shift gears. So that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years. And it's all only part-time because it's a very heavy line of work and I wouldn't want to do it full-time. And I'm also a freelance writer and self-care advocate. And that is what I'm passionate about.
lots and lots of hats over there.
I was gonna say just a few things on the list.
Yeah, I know. I swear I probably have ADHD. Like my husband and I talk about this all the time because we're very similar. It's like you have all these ideas and all these cool, fun things, and you want to commit to all of them, but you really don't have the time. And now we also have aging parents. So to throw that in the hopper, yeah, just kind of trying to juggle all the things and send a daughter off to college in the fall. So she's going to UW-Madison, and that's exciting. So
go Badgers!
Yes, future Badger in our home here. Yeah. So you'll notice my Wisconsin accent coming out probably, and Julia, yours might too. Like
it might rub off on me while we're speaking. I always laugh though. When I lived in Wisconsin, I didn't realize there was an accent until I left, and it's like now I go back and I'm like, oh, they do speak weird in Wisconsin.
That's like I've heard people tell me I have a Miami accent, and I'm like, I most certainly do not. And then I go somewhere else, and I'm like, oh, I can hear that now. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I lived in Philadelphia. Let me think, it would have been 1996. And remember when the movie Fargo came out?
Yeah.
People were like, I lived with a group of nuns, and one of the nuns was like, Chris, you sound just like Marge. And at the time, I didn't really think that I did. I thought I had lost my Wisconsin accent, but looking back, other people heard it. So
that's hysterical.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you have had quite the adventure, and I'm super interested in your book and all it tells. How'd you get here? How'd you get here? I mean, share your story, share what limiting belief you had to let go of to get to where you are today. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, and I talk a ton about this in my book, which is it went through several renditions to get to this point where I actually do a lot of inward exploration because of who I always had been, like, and what I thought was normal and how I thought I should be. So I was kind of a serial giver my whole life. Like, my motto was like, if it's up to be, it's up to me. And as a social worker, I was like also a serial helper. And I always chose, careers where I was like, burning the candle at both ends and going into the city and helping people. And my husband is similar. He's a school psychologist and guidance counselor. So we had that in common when we met. But it wasn't until I suffered this accident in November of 2011, because I was a parent that was trying to parent this child that had some special needs, and I had this unacknowledged, pent-up, complex post-traumatic stress that was the reason for my accident, that I thought to myself, I didn't even know how to care for myself because I was caring about everyone else all the time. So I'm passionate about self-care because I've had to learn how to care for myself and not everybody else. So I got to the point of writing the book because I talked to so many other parents of A, kids with special needs, B, people with development or with disabilities or chronic health conditions. And I see that it's sort of this countercultural thing that we have to be like constantly telling ourselves, or I had to keep telling myself, this is okay. You should actually care for yourself. You should put yourself first. And that's not a bad thing, because if you don't, put your own oxygen mask on, you're not going to be a good mom to your kids. You're not going to be as effective in your job and your career. So I write through the memoir about how I came to those realizations. Don't know if that makes, sense. There's a longer rendition of that. I can tell a little bit more about my accident and my story if you want me to go there.
If you are open to sharing your story, I think it's a good story for the audience to hear.
Yeah. Oh, and so now are both of you ladies physical therapists?
No, Graciela is a photographer.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So Julietta, you're the PT. And I'm speaking with the Marquette PT department on Wednesday about this topic too, about like self-care and trying to create community because that's another passion of mine, is creating community. So
You're in good company.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, and I was listening to what you said before you brought me on about social media and using it as a vehicle, and I am working to embrace social media as a vehicle because I am such a boomer. I feel like I'm trying to like embrace this platform with this book launch coming out, and I struggle with it. So anyway,
can I just tell you the secret? I'm just going to tell you the one secret, the one thing that I have to repeat to myself often, which is it always feels like you're talking to no one and no one's paying attention. And I will tell you that everyone is paying attention. And that's the important part, is that I consistently get comments from people who are like, oh yeah, I was listening to you say this or that, or oh, I've been following you for 2 years, or oh, what you and Julietta talk about really changed my life. And we're sitting here thinking, what? We were just putting stuff out there. We don't even think anybody was listening, So the messages that you have, and I'm dying to hear more, please, the world needs to hear them. Like, don't ever get discouraged and think that no one's listening or that it's not working or any of that nonsense we tell ourselves. You have something to say it, put it out there, and it's reaching people, I promise, whether you see it or not. So, yeah.
And thank you for that. Like, that's the rub. It's like, I'm used to having this other person in front of me and, like sitting with patients in real life. And like having this back and forth. So talking to screens is, it's something that it's probably like a practice that I just have to get used to. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this idea that people need to hear my story and what I went through has been important because, okay, so I'll start with my parenting burnout. And if you want to hear more about that, I was on the Today Show in 2018 talking with Megyn Kelly about mommy burnout. Because I wrote for the Huffington Post about what it was like to parent a child with a history of trauma. And so a little bit of background about that is that both my children are adopted. My daughter didn't have that many issues, but my son did. And when he came into our home, I didn't even, because I thought I was going to just take on everything, all the traumas of the world, like, why would I not? This is what I'd always done. And he had severe developmental delays. And I was like schlepping him back and forth to appointments and living in the suburbs and not feeling connected because I felt like I was carrying this burden of, trying to portray this happy image that I was this mom that was loving it. And I was struggling so hard, so much. So anyway, so my daughter was around 7 and 6, and my son was around 4. And I liked to go to the climbing gym. My husband and I met years ago, and that was the thing that we had. Well, he was a rock climber, and he got me into climbing. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a blast. I'd always been driven to like intensities, and my father was an athlete, and I totally see that, I have to be in my body. That's just how I have to be in the world, is like through activities and being active. So this one particular day, my son had an appointment later at Children's Hospital, and I said, I'm going to go get my climb on. I'm going to go to the gym, and then we're going to go there after. And I forgot to clip in there was this brand new route on the wall, and I forgot to clip myself into the auto belay, which is like a pulley. And I climbed, and I fell like 30 feet, between 28 and 30 feet, something like that. So I'm right side dominant, so I landed on my right foot, and I suffered like a pelvic fracture, a vertical shear pelvic fracture. Totally blew up my ankle, and it wasn't really repairable. We tried to save it for 2 years, and I remember Julietta reaching out to me during that time with some advice about, like, I had one physical therapist that was encouraging me to cut the lawn because that would be good for my ankle mobility. And I was like walking on shards of glass that just wouldn't heal, and she said, that's the worst advice any PT could give you, which it was. But anyway, so I was in and out of the hospital for like 2 years, trying to fix this unfixable ankle. And eventually I decided that after talking with lots of different people, I could regain my quality of life if I had a below the knee amputation and be fitted with a prosthetic with, more like feet with bounce. And, it was a hard decision to really make because it was a loss, and the medical community didn't necessarily support that because, they view amputation as a failure. And I never regretted that decision. It's a new normal and all that. But so anyway, and that was, it took some time to get used to, but in my healing, I also started to see my son's and my children's realities a little bit differently as well. Because as I began to kind of grapple with the idea of loss and gain, I began to see that they also had their losses that I didn't acknowledge because I was so, focused on proving how strong I was and how happy we were and all this crap. And I didn't understand my children's reality. So even with the concept, and I bring this up in the book too, of phantom limb pain, it doesn't make sense to people who don't know, like how, you still have a limb or you don't have a limb anymore. How can your body interpret that you still do? And I began to see that, even my children, they don't, their family of origins are not with them anymore. They're with us, but they're always going to be pining for what they left behind, their cultures, their identities, their families of origin. And it was a huge learning experience for me, to kind of go through my healing along with my primarily my son, my daughter too. And as she gets older, we're seeing a lot more now that she's getting ready to leave the house. There are all those developmental milestones and, you just never, those traumas, I learned, you just never get beyond them. They're always part of you. And so, yeah, that's kind of like the nutshell version.
I think it's so important for people to understand that trauma is just a part of our lives, and we get to experience it, we get to feel it, and we still get to go forward and succeed. And but people are trying to hide their traumas instead of, the more people that reveal their traumas, which is, I appreciate you telling our audience some of what you're going through, because so many people are going through things and they're trying to hide them and trying to pretend like life is perfect. And it rarely is. I don't know anybody who has a perfect life, but on social media, it sure looks like everybody does.
I know. Right. Like, and you can orchestrate everything. Like you can have like the filters and all the,
filter, Photoshop, crop things out. Yeah.
I don't even know how we got to the definition of perfect to begin with anyway, right? Like, when did the definition of perfect become something other than being happy, right? Like that's really the most basic of it, right? To love and feel loved, to feel happy. Anything beyond that is just, irrelevant. Chris, I'm off script here, but I'm kind of curious, how does self-care show up in your life? And have you translated that for your children and their own experiences? And how does that show up for them?
Yeah. Well, the most current example was like this morning. So we had some snow here and I got myself to the Wisconsin Athletic Club to take a boot camp class because like, I know that if my body isn't moving, I feel it in my lower back. And, like I deal with some chronic residual pain that if I don't get myself out the door and moving, I will probably feel it. So it's that sense of you can't allow your feelings to dictate I can't allow my feelings of like, I don't feel like doing this today to dictate what I do. Because if you can't slide into that complacency of, just not doing what you don't feel like doing. And so like during the pandemic too, I remember having conversations with my daughter about getting out of her bedroom, even though like, we were dealing with this sense of like disconnection from one another. And, I could use my own example. I'm like, look, I understand how hard it is to get yourself out, and it feels like comfortable in your bedroom. You've got all your, creature comforts around, but believe me, I can tell you this because I've lived it. If you don't push yourself sometimes to do the stuff you don't want to do, you'll regret it. You know what I mean? So that's how it, for me, making sure that I'm staying active and working out, reconnecting with other strong women. That's where I'm at right now. Like, that's what my biggest goal is, because my life has been so parenting focused and recovery focused for so many years. And getting this book, I'm an extrovert by nature, and writing is very like focused and introverted, and it's been hard. And even in my job as a chaplain, like, I love it for the sense of, like connecting with other people with struggles, but it's heavy stuff. And so connecting with women and finding my joy has been huge. I think for so many of us, it's like to tell yourself it's okay to be joyful. We're supposed to be joyful. You know what I mean?
I love that. I think this is the first time I'm hearing self-care as something that might seem uncomfortable at the onset. Most of the time when people say self-care, they're like, oh, get a massage and get your nails done and blah, blah, blah. And that's all well and good if that's your thing. But doing the thing that you might not really feel like doing is the thing that's going to make you feel better, is the thing that's going to take care of you, right? So you don't spiral. That's really insightful. I appreciate that perspective. Oh,
well, thank you. And it's a practice. Like, I grew up, and I write in my first chapter, there's a heading, that the perils of unbridled generosity, because, I grew up I also have a theology degree. So, I believed that my worth was equated with what I did and how many people I helped. And, so for me to be able to say it's okay to put yourself first, and maybe even it's like that doesn't mean I'm not caring about other people, but switching
up the order. That's all.
Right.
Switching up the order.
Yeah, for sure. My husband texted me like right before we got on this call. I do work later today, and he said, "Do you have anything planned for dinner tonight?" There we go. We're the women. We're expected to like have everything planned and care for all the people, the children, the parent, the husbands, the pets. We're expected to keep all the balls in the air and do it all well. And I was like, I didn't even text him back. Honestly, I wanted to text him back saying, "You can figure it out. I'm sure you're a big boy." No, seriously, he's a great guy. But we just fall into those roles, right?
Yeah.
Until we don't. I have to say that's one thing I love about my relationship now is he'll pick up and do dinner all the time, and he does the dishes without me asking. I'm like, this is so nice to not be the one that is always like, well, how are you handling this? What are you doing for this? What do you, and to just have like truly shared roles. Like, we get everything done together and no one's expected to do anything. It's wonderful.
I bet. And it sounds joyful too.
It is. It truly
And you can actually enjoy cooking together?
My kitchen's really small, so it's hard for two people to be in the kitchen. But we both like cooking. So, on days that I'm working long, like, he doesn't even ask. He just handles it. And I come home and I got food and it's great.
Yes.
And sometimes he's feeling a little tired and burnt out and, can you handle it tonight? Absolutely. Because he handles it so many times. So, it's share and share. And it feels really, I believe that this is the direction that the world is going. It's been such a patriarchal society for so long, and we're ready for a shift. And I talk about this. I visited Egypt for the first time back in 2017 and went to Philae Temple, which is of the goddess Isis. And that night when I was in my room meditating before I went to sleep, Isis came to me and said that the sacred feminine needs to rise. It needs to wake up, and us women have to do it. And not to like put that load on us, but the way the world is right now, this toxic masculinity that's out there, the men are like trapped in it and they can't get out. And the only way out is for us to bring back that feminine energy. And, you know, it's through love that we're going to fix this. I mean, as women, we've been fighting, you know, the whole feminist movement is using toxic male energy to like fight and claw our way to the top. And we really need to love our way to the top. And that's what's going to heal the world and create the world that's not going to be the women have to care all the time for everybody doing everything, because that's not how it's supposed to be. And we will get there. It's just, we have to get it started, get the ball rolling.
Yeah. I like how you said that, using toxic masculinity to get there. I've been actually thinking about that a lot, like how we felt this need to prove for so long. And I feel like we're at a point where we don't really have to prove things anymore. Like we can just it's like the water forging its way through the dirt. Like, you know, it's a gentler way of proving who we are and that the world needs us and needs what we have to offer. Because it's a gentler love. Yeah. It's a gentler energy. Yeah. I like how you said that.
And we were just talking in a different episode how a lot of our listeners are men. So the work is being done, ladies. The work is being done.
Yeah.
So Chris, quick question for you. We are, as always, putting together a library of inspirational books, and you feel free to talk about your own book, but what book would you like to put into our library?
Actually, I'm sure you guys have that one. Do a lot of people bring up Women Who Run with the Wolves?
I would say a lot. It has come up, and we've used it. A couple of years ago, we had a book club in our Facebook group, and we read that book. I will say it's not a book to read fast, which
right.
I wish I hadn't read it during our book club thing, because we had to finish the book in a short amount of time, and it's not a book to read. You have to like savor it bit by bit.
Right, exactly. But I have like my little bookmarks in all of the sections, and the one particular story that I could relate to in sort of an archetypal, very deep way was the little match girl, the story of the little match girl. And I love how Clarissa describes how so this little match girl is, I won't tell the whole story, but she describes the fire as energy. And this girl keeps, striking these matches to keep herself warm. And she's giving her energy away to the world. And then she ends up burning to death, right? Or, like burning or freezing in an attempt to stay warm, freezing to death in the snow. And as I look at like who I've been in all my history, I did that all the time, and I wish I would have listened before my accident happened. I wish I would have, because I read this book years ago, even before my accident, because I don't even remember what the copyright was. But I remember thinking, take note, because this is kind of how you are, Chris, and then we adopted children with trauma. And, I'm constantly having to tell myself, don't give your energy away. You conserve some of your energy because you need it for your healing, for yourself. Because when you have, chronic health condition of any kind, you do sort of need to keep some of that energy for your own healing. And you probably know more about this as a physical therapist than I do, because I just, intuitively, I just think, and working in healthcare, which is, very female dominated with, mostly women doing the caretaking, and seeing how many people are getting burned out. And same with education. And, I'm seeing so many women who are such good nature or such giving people burning out. And I see myself in that, and I have a daughter who wants to go into healthcare. And anyway, I'm just really hoping that we as a nation can start to allow our women to nurture ourselves a little bit more give in those ways, Julietta, that you mentioned, that like are more gentle and loving and guiding and less, sort of forced.
Beautiful. Yeah, I do think I need to reread that book, like slower, calmer, gentler.
We're going to need a big, long retreat for that one. We're going to have to go somewhere to a cave in a mountain or something for a couple weeks.
Yeah, right? Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, man. All right. So you've already done so much, but I know there's more in there. So what secret gift is percolating inside you, longing to come out, and what's stopping you from unleashing it right now?
Yeah. So my secret gift, I don't know exactly how secret it is, but I've always been really good at creating community and connecting with people. And that's been squelched for like the last 5 years as I've been writing. And I've been working also as a hospital chaplain. So I connect with people, but in like a broader way of connecting with other women. So I've been throwing around the idea of like starting a meetup in the community I live in. There's a lot more promotional stuff that I need to do with the book. But I would say that my superpower is connecting with other people and helping people feel seen and heard. And I'm a pretty darn good listener, which is kind of a gift, like I've learned over the years. I really, really do enjoy it, hearing people's stories. Like I could listen to people all day. I just gain so much insight and wisdom from sitting with patients. And like, I don't know, I'd rather do that than like watch a Netflix documentary or, people are amazing. I just love what people's stories what I can gain from their stories, and the wisdom that comes from, really allowing yourself to take in what other people have to offer. So, and
people need to know that it's always amazing to me how many people I ask to be on the show, and they're like, why would you want me on the show? Like, what do I have to offer? And I'm like, you're amazing. You're a goddess. You have so much to share, and it needs to get out there. And you might not think that you have anything new or anything special, but even if it's the same thing that someone else said, you're going to say it in a different way that resonates with somebody else that couldn't hear it, even though someone else was trying to tell them. They couldn't hear it because they didn't say it the right way for them. So, every woman needs to use their voice and speak out, and because they have something to say that someone out there needs to hear. And everybody's amazing.
And this is why our mission is to inspire women and anyone really to uncover what's already within them, right? The magic that's within them, so that they can live authentically. Because that's where the good stuff is when you get to be yourself all the way around and in all those different iterations, right? I'm looking forward to your community. I think this sounds really, really cool. I think it could grow big. So can you leave us with one final parting thought, a gift that you'd like to give our audience, something that you wish everyone knew?
Yeah. So for me, it was that it is okay to put yourself first in a way that you shouldn't think of it as being selfish. And I don't think that's unique to how I have always believed that we should be in the world. I think a lot of us feel like we're always we're doing something wrong if we're not putting other people first. So that is the thing, that is my nugget of wisdom, is like that doesn't mean it's all or nothing. It doesn't mean that you're some selfish, self-absorbed. There's a big difference between, self-absorption and self-care. So self-care is like a non-negotiable. Like for me, it is absolutely a necessity. And I think we all need that, because that's the kind of the platform for like embarking on the world with, you know what I mean?
Totally powerful.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Chris. This has been wonderful having you, wonderful seeing you. And
thank you for sharing so much of your story.
Yeah, well, again, I feel like I could sit here and talk to you ladies forever. Like, like if we lived in the same area, we could go meet for coffee or something, I wish I could fly back down to Florida.
So, or maybe you'll join us on our retreat later this year.
There you go.
Where's it going to be?
Oh, it's a secret.
Oh.
It's all in process, and we're revealing little by little. So, but earlier today, we announced to the world that we are planning our first retreat, and it's going to be just a
magical
wonderful time for women to connect and lift each other up and find themselves.
I'll be looking for that.
All right.
Thank you so much, Chris. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you, ladies. Yeah, good connecting. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today and keeping us in the top 10% of podcasts in the world.
Ask us how you can promote your business on this podcast as a sponsor, and make sure you check out the show notes for details on how to get in touch with Julieta, Graciela, or today's special guest.
We're sending you lots of love and gratitude. Have a magical day.